Commander Cockins and Captain Foley yet again for another Trekyards mission briefing. How you doing, everyone? How you doing, Stuart?
I'm doing great.
Cool. Well, as every Wednesday, you guys know you tune in and you hear us talk about a ship. And we discuss it, we theorise it, and we try and work out any details that, we see that thing, we're like, that thing, and we theorise, and you guys tell us we're wrong or we're right, and it all goes into a full episode later on, even with the designer, maybe. What are we doing this week, though, Stuart?
This week we are taking a look at the absolute epitome of the TOS warship. A dreadnought of unparalleled size and power, even has black camouflage to blend into the darkness of space. That's right, it's the USS Vengeance from Star Trek Into Darkness.
And I've got a huge model, Eagle Moss.
Yeah.
Because it crashes in the movie. Anyway, at a length of 1,450 meters. Yeah, the ship is comparable in size to the Romulan Dreadnought. You know, that massive warbird? 1,341, so even smaller, the Dreadnought is. And the Dominion battleship, the big one, the biggest one, 1,500 meters. So, TOS warship, a Dominion, wow.
Well, let's get into the first picture, and maybe we can see it. It is black. I don't know. I can't see it.
Oh, I've upped the contrast, to try and...
there it is. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah.
So, Vengeance from the J.J. Abrams film Into Darkness. Probably worth start off by saying it's a little bit controversial.
It is. I got to admit, I got to say first off, when I first saw it, I thought, that's a nicer looking ship than the Enterprise. Because proportionally, it is. The engines are spaced properly.
Yep. They look nicer.
They look a lot nicer, exactly. It's just, I first liked it, and I do still kind of like it. It's just not my favorite. It's got a lot of flaws, but it's better than the Enterprise. I'm saying that right now. I'm going on record.
Which is kind of impressive that they managed to do a really recognizable villain ship. Yeah, when I first saw it, I was like, okay.
That's a good reaction.
It's because again, when we look at the JJ Prize, we know it's scale based on the shuttle base. We say, wow, that's a humongous ship, and this thing warps in. It's like, wow, this thing, it's a ginormous ship, and it's like, no one builds like that. It doesn't. This is TOS, god damn it. They don't build that big. They don't. TNG is what, 100? It's like 70.
But Samuel, it's an alternate universe.
And Khan, a Superman from the 1990s, helped them build a ship that's obviously no. But honestly, this is a ship I didn't like it when I first saw it, just for the problems they had.
I did like it when I first saw it,
but then I got the Eagle Moss model, and he physically, because as in movies you don't get to see certain angles. I didn't have a 3D model myself, so physically getting it, I got to say I quite like it now. I completely turned around now. I really respect the design now, because it is proportioned nicely. It's got good angles. Yes. It feels nice. It's got really nice curves. I'll just say this now, though. The only thing you change, take out this whole middle section. Mm-hmm. If that was solid, it'd be a very decent starship. The problems would almost completely disappear. Then the ideas are more like, oh, it's an alternate ship, rather than what the hell are you doing? That's
and scale down the size and help it be more realistic.
It just has to be like 50 meters bigger or 100 meters bigger, and I can buy that. Like, oh wow, it's bigger. Just doesn't need to be big. Anyway, this first picture, great picture because it's so highly detailed. What strikes out to you first? Apart from you can't see anything.
I feel like I want a cold beer.
Yes.
And I have the perfect bottle opener right in front of me.
Well,
every time I see it, I see bottle opener.
I think there is a bottle opener version. I think actually is a sellable one.
I was going to say, you're going Think Geek, and you got like a Millennium Falcon bottle opener. This is the bottle opener for Star Trek. Other than that, the color, why? Like, just to make it look mean? It's a bad guy? Yeah, that's where the black hat?
I mean, that is the reason. I like thinking that it's a different type of plating, stealth plating. Because the whole thing's a stealth ship, sort of.
Mm-hmm. It could also be tougher armor plating as well.
Just
different color. So.
But then again, color shouldn't have to be a thing.
No.
I think in the magazine it says it's meant to reflect sensors, which links into the thing I really see when I first look at that, and that's the deflector, which is where it should be, pride of place, very square, which is interesting, and it's kind of unique because it's got armor plating that actually closes it up when it's open and warp, closed up when not, because specifically And this was thought through. It's a reasonably well thought through ship. When it's open, you can detect it. Obviously, 'cause it's a deflector, it's sending out particles. When it's closed, you can't. Hence the stealth element. I believe also the warp engine's also shut to some extent. So that's part of why I say it's black stealth. It's genuinely quite stealthy.
It's the same as like the F-117 and the SR-71 Blackbird. There's certain shapes and certain materials they use so that the radar doesn't bounce back; it gets reflected. And if you were to open up something on the front of one of those planes that was basically a dish, like a radar dish, that would reflect back at the sensor or the radar. So it makes sense that closes and only used in war. That's actually a really great idea, and I absolutely like that idea.
Yeah, it works. It's Star Trek enough because it's just pushing that slight boundary. I gotta say though, I mean, if you look at the proportionality of the ship, because obviously you've got the model I can see, that saucer is huge compared to the body. I mean, it's a very, very sleek, tapered body, and this saucer is absolutely ginormous. I mean, I think the scaling is probably off, like, maybe, but it kind of gives it that, I don't know, insect vibe? I don't know why I'm saying that, but the body is very, like, I think when you see it side on, though, it doesn't feel as big, but it feels more like an insect with all the different, I don't know, like, it sort of swoops in. It's got that sort of odd vibe to it.
Well, we're talking about the reflectivity of the hull, and that's why I think the secondary hull is shaped that way. It's much like the shape of, like I said, the F-117 Blackbird, just to deflect sensor particles. Now, we're also talking about size. So let's move on to the next picture real quick. And this is, of course, when it comes out of warp and it's facing off.
Sorry, you mean hyperspace?
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah. I mean, the fairy dust land where they go.
Yeah.
I don't know. Fairy dust corridors. There you go. But anyway, the first time we see it against the Enterprise, and you're like, wow. We know the Enterprise is retardedly big in JJ verse.
And even if it was normal, then this sudden leap.
Yeah.
It's weird because we say that, but the Excelsior was a huge leap. The difference being is that it wasn't scaled up in the same way. It was engines are longer, not necessarily bigger, but longer to provide to imply more propulsion. Saucer is just a naturally scaled up. It's not huge, just scaled up. And the secondary again part is just longer. There's no. It's not just times 10. It's naturally evolved for certain sleek reasons. Whereas this, you look at it. I mean, the entire ship is the size of the nacelle, but then you've also got this mass like it. It doesn't feel that right level of progression, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. The thing, too, is one thing I don't like, and this is just a JJ thing with me, the white hat and the black hat. We got the good guy and the bad guy. It's so obviously
on the nose
differentiated who is who. You don't need to do that. Like, I understand that the black is for the stealth and all that. But
you notice they had to make the background all colourful just to make the ship seeable.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it wouldn't have been. It really wouldn't have been. I mean, the scimitar was bad enough in Nemesis. It was being cloaked most of the time. But I mean, I've got to say that in the trailers, when you first saw it appear and when you saw it in the movie, it's like, wow, that is huge. And I think the average viewer would be like, that's a big ship. Oh no, they're in trouble. But I think we as fans, and our sort of fan, are like, wow, that's a really big ship. Huh.
The question, too, is why does it have to be that big? Do they have families aboard it? Is it like
no.
the Galaxy class?
No, they said it can be run by one person.
I know, so why do you need it that big?
Because it's a warship to take on the new Klingon Armada. I would guesstimate, despite its obvious flaws, that this is meant to be the flagship to... Because we saw in the first film that they sent all their ships and they all got blown up against the Narada. So I suppose it would make sense to put everything into one ship, because then if you can warp into hyperspace into a Klingon Armada, and you can take a beating from 10D whatever they have at the time, not a problem. Then the rest of your fleet comes in and attacks, and you are that absolute flagship. I mean, especially if you compare this to the scale we got a sense of in the D whatevers in the first movie. This would completely outstretch those, and this is only 4 years, even less than that later. So this is such a jump in technology. I think that's what they're trying to do. And the Khan vibe doesn't really work to say that, but I think they're trying to absolutely leapfrog. In that respect, that would be cool to see. Like, I would could you imagine a spin-off movie? Again, make this solid. Wouldn't it be cool to see Star Trek spin-off, this ship goes against a Klingon Armada? Cool captain, reads on the bridge.
Yeah, but It makes no sense to put all your eggs in one basket, build one ship. I'd rather have an armada of smaller ships than one big ship.
Well, yeah, but like I said, we saw the Narada in the first film defeat an entire Klingon armada, an entire Federation armada. So what they've seen is
That's
that
because
one
stupid.
big.
That's why.
But the universe, I love how I'm always the apologist in this show, Jesus. I love, so it does tell the people at the time, build a ship that can take on anything, and you can take on anything.
But you only have one ship. You can't have one ship in multiple places at the same time.
Well, they might build more than one of these. I mean, come on, it was on his desk. It's not exactly a secret, is it? Anyway, onto the next picture. Again, the scale. Now, this really puts into perspective, because we see it obviously against the JJ prize, but we see it against the Prime timeline. Now, I know people out there are going to say, but look at the DVD, the Enterprise JJ says it's smaller. No, they might say that in retrospect, but they didn't follow it in their own film. So this is the scale based on what makes sense based on the film. Look at this scaling. Look at this damn scaling. What do you think, Stuart?
It's ridiculous. Well, first of all, to say that the ships in the JJ universe are bigger because of the Narada coming through is bullshit, because look at the Kelvin there. The Kelvin is already upsized. Now, people have said
Deep
it's a colony.
Space
It's a deep space explorer. There's families on board, or it's a colony ship.
Yeah.
So it is, of course, bigger. I don't buy that. They didn't have that in the original timeline, so you can't say that this is the divergent point in the timeline is when the Narada came through. There was already something prior
I
to
think
this.
you can say it, but it's a huge stretch.
You can say a lot, and there's no proof. It's just us
Well, there's
geeks
proof.
and fans
We
speculating.
see it in canon. There is proof. We see it in a canonical film in the Prime timelines. There is proof. As much proof as you need, because it's canonical, unfortunately.
What is?
Well, JJ film, we see 5 minutes in the Prime timeline, so it is canonically.
It's already an altered timeline. That just makes no sense.
Well, no, it's still Prime because it was built before that.
No, I disagree.
And anyway, Vengeance.
Yeah.
What do you think, though? I mean, the Enterprise E is a huge ship. Ship. It's not a huge ship.
No, this is just ridiculous. There's no need for this. This is somebody compensating for something that I'm not going to say who's compensating or what they're compensating for, but we need bigger and better. So take that for what it's worth.
And there's no way you could stretch to say this could take out the Enterprise E. Which just points out that if they were genuinely to fight E versus this, the E would have far superior shields, quantums, every advantage in this fight. So they'd be like, wow, the ship's huge. Fires its phasers. Oh, our shields are holding. Fire quantums. At the bridge. Oh, we just blew it up. Okay, off to Sigma 13.
Assuming that the technology in the JJ verse isn't so advanced that the weapons are far superior to the Enterprise.
Only if it retrofitted Narada weapons, but then the Kelvin would have to have had really detailed scans, which they can't have because it got blown up in the shuttles. I mean, there's no
bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. So the E should still be able to defeat it, but it just throws away. I mean, the D was the huge improvement. And it's like 100 years later. We know the timeline. We know every ship leading up, and to assert that this ship, because you've got to consider NX-01 is canonical. So they went in. So 70-ish years from Enterprise to TOS, I believe. Add another. Well, it's pre-TOS, isn't it? Because it's roughly. So let's say 65 years. They went from NX-01 canonically to Vengeance. That is the canonical leap.
I'd like to see their next generation timeline then. Ships must be the size of planets.
Borg cube size. But it's like 10 times the length of the NX-01.
Yeah.
I mean, just this bridge section is the size of the NX-01. Basically, it's huge.
Yeah. All right, so let's go to the next picture, which is also scaling.
And I we sound negative. It's just because there's some basic flaws in the universe. The design itself, the
design. I don't have a problem with the design, honestly. That hole in the saucer.
Yeah, we'll get on some of that stuff later, but yeah, it's just if there's just initial problems in step 1 and step 2, then it's difficult to look past them because they just don't work. But yeah, okay. So what did this say?
Proportionality-wise, that ship is much, much nicer than the JJ Prize. Mm-hmm. That front view of the Vengeance, I love it. I think it's an amazing-looking ship.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I like the square nacelles.
Yeah.
Anyway, so credits to Tobias Richter. Nice for some of the shots.
Doug Drexler's in there.
Hey. Yeah.
Anyway, so this just shows the different views and the different scaling. Look at the little Nova class. So it can fly like through the hole in the Vengeance.
But it does again. If you so look at the front view. I mean the engine struts do have a very organic curve.
Mm-hmm.
Very,
and I like it.
Very kind of pull and stretch, but it works. But it's got I don't know if you've seen Resident Evil 7, the last one. Those flying carriers, they've got very similar front profile. It's not very Star Trek. I don't know, like the proportions are odd.
But the proportions are odd, but they're not. Look at those engines and the width that they're spaced with this in relation to the saucer. That's how the Enterprise should look. Yeah. Look at the turd right beside it now. Look at the Enterprise. Look how close the engines are and how big they are.
I agree.
Spread them further apart. Anyway, proportionally, the Vengeance is very nice.
And this says that the Excelsior, which canonically would be developed, 5-6 years after, maybe 10, maybe. Yeah, probably about 10. Can fit inside the secondary hull. The entire Excelsior can fit inside this. That's perspective for you.
Yeah.
Anyway, photo is the LCARs.
I got to admit, I love the LCARs in JJ Verse, but it's way too advanced for TOS era.
Again, that's always the problem because there is no TOS. There sort of is an LCARs. It's here or there, as it were. They've got a display system, but not displays in the same way. This looks like generic This looks like Terminator, honestly, like Terminator 2026 generic sci-fi. Mm-hmm. I mean, the color scheme doesn't even work.
I don't have a problem with the color scheme. I kind of like it. I like the blues and the...
I mean, it doesn't feel Star Trek. Like, nothing here shouts or screams Star Trek.
The buttons on the side and the upper right with the numbers and the little bit of color variation and the rectangular shape.
The blues, yeah. There's a couple of little things. Although I'm wondering, what the hell is it displaying? Defensive weapon capability.
It's damage assessment.
Okay. So he's got defensive weapons and armament power levels. So what? I think those turret things might do the defensive weapons then. But so, what the hell's a defensive weapon? And you've got view screen on here. You've got
a defensive weapon is like a point defense weapon. You shoot it.
Sure.
An incoming missile or something, right?
Despite the Enterprise not really firing anything to warrant any such damage. Oh, I guess they exploded, didn't they? You've got short range sensors. You've got 2 different power levels. You've got little waveforms at the bottom. It's a lot of damage, though. It's kind of funny. An explosion in the primary hull damaged this part of the saucer and this part of the saucer and this part of the engines.
Well, you say that, but then you look at Wrath of Khan, where like
silly.
They knew exactly where to hit us, and they're pointing at it, and there's damage on the other side of the saucer. Like, where'd that come from?
Off screen. Yeah.
Pieces flying off, maybe. But
I'm wondering, why is the ship reflected in this? Because you've got the main view, and then it's almost as if it's a hologram coming out of the display, which would be really interesting. And then you've sort of got the reflection on the flat display.
That would be cool, but I don't know. I don't mind the look of these graphics. I like them so.
But to think this is about TOS era might be a year or two pre-TOS. It's like
I can see this being movie era computers just because of the colors, the blues, and some of the greens there. I can see this being an evolution
on steroids.
Sure. Yeah. Well, guys, hope you enjoyed part 1.
Yeah, me too. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. You know.
Good. So did I. But there's a part 2 on the way soon.
But you guessed that probably with the title. But yeah, next week, guys, tune in for part 2, the conclusion of this wonderful episode.
See you then.